Previously on Tales from Tech Titans.
Did not know what hit me. It was just total culture shock. Big banks are fascinating places. They do so much stuff. It was a really good learning experience and got exposed to so many different ways that people can do so much bad stuff in so many different areas of the bank. It's far better to prevent fraud than go and spend good money chasing money that's already gone out the door.
My question to you is, which of those environments brought out the best in you?
This guy Darren Kane is his name, and I'm really proud and pleased that I know him. He's been phenomenal for me. He's been phenomenal for so many people in the security industry.
Many people, I think, today enter cybersecurity from being a technologist. I'd make the argument you didn't.
I would make the argument I didn't. The worst thing anybody could do would be put me in front of a computer. I'll break it.
How did that help you, though, to develop into the cybersecurity professional you became?
My job at La Trobe was to protect the people, assets and reputation of La Trobe University. And I did that through building a program that was driven by culture, informed by risk and delivered through people, process and technology.
My question to you is, which of those environments brought out the best in you?
I don't know. If I look at it from what is my identity, and I'm getting all esoteric here. If somebody says, who is Andrew Morgan, I would say, I used to be a policeman, and that's a long time ago, because I don't know that I can put a label on anything else that I've done since then. I still say, I'm an ex-copper. That's what I was. But I think every role that I've had, and this is where I've been really blessed, because it's not through any great design. I've just sort of bounced along in a trajectory that's kind of worked, but every role has been in an adjacent space to the one before it, but not covering it again. So I'm not doing the same thing again and again and again. I'm keep moving a little bit sideways. And every role has allowed me to take elements of things that I've done previously and roll them into whatever the next thing that I'm doing is. So as far as which one brought out the best in me, I kind of think that every time I do something else, it's like it's the next version of what it is. And I've seen an enormous change from being a 21-year-old skinny boy in a blue suit with a gun to the kind of work that I've done over the last 10 years or so. My attitudes have changed, my I suppose maturity changes, my approach, what it is that I'm actually chasing in a role changes. Everything's changed, everything's evolved, which I'm lucky I'm at that stage in my career where I can go, I've got another 10 years left. But what do I look back on now? And I've got that opportunity to look back on it and go, has it meant something? And what will the last part mean? So I think every role gives you an opportunity to bring out something which is good.
Yeah, interesting. You've also got the track record of being agile, moving from place to place, different roles, different industries, different functions.
Yeah, it looks like I'm on the run, doesn't it?
It does a little bit, but no. I think that in a good way. I think what you're demonstrating for yourself, but also for other people looking at your story, is you don't have to stick to one path, and you don't have to stick to a traditional career ladder. I've got this image in my head more of like a beehive for your career, right? As in you're kind of moving through these hexagons, and they're kind of adjacent and they kind of overlap, and then suddenly you may have started here, but you're over here now.
Yeah.
But there's no real straight path.
I'm still not a barrister, am I? Still not a barrister.
Still time. Still got 10 years. We're going to get you there. I was going to make a terrible joke about you making a good coffee, but that's...
I've worked as a barista, so I've done it.
You're close enough, that's right. Like a dyslexic barrister. There you go. So, actually, that's terrible. I shouldn't have said that.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah. All right, so you then joined... You did some time with BDO. Yep. And then you went to NBN.
Yes.
So sort of back into the world of corporates. So how did you make, again, that transition back?
So through a series of unfortunate events, the BDO at the time were investing in some different strategies that were sort of seen as potentially adding really good revenue streams to the practice as they went on. So forensics was one of those areas of investment, and through a number of things in other parts of the business, it just got to the stage where the BDO board had to pull back on those investments. So there was a whole heap of cuts through the firm, and my area was one of them, and sadly I had to go and retrench all these poor people that I'd sold the dream to come in and work with us, and I stayed on for another 6 months before they finally said, no, look, we're just going to pull the pin on this for the time being. And again, they were really good to me. They let me take the computer forensics lab that I had with me when I went, so which was awesome. And I thought, oh God, I've never been unemployed before, so finished up on the Friday, took the lab home, set it up over the weekend, rang some law firms on the Monday and said, at a bit of a loose end, and I can do this stuff at a really good price now. And I was lucky I got thrown a couple of jobs really quickly and did some stuff. So I was unemployed for a weekend, which was much more comforting. And about 3 weeks after that, the same guy that hired me into ASIC was and still is the chief security officer over at NBN, and he had been there about 6 months, and he was reimagining and rebuilding the security function there at NBN when it was in its big startup phase. So they were basically building this fibre optic infrastructure around the country, and he was there to basically protect the internet in Australia. And one of the things that he wanted was a forensics function in there. So he asked me if I'd go in and do that, and I said yep. And he said, look, give me 12 months, just set it up, give me 12 months. And I was there nearly 7 years.
Yes.
And again, he gave me so many opportunities. Won't say too much about him because he'd get a big head.
Yeah. But it's interesting, again, you followed him twice. You followed Andy, the other guy you mentioned there, into that other organisation. It's quite interesting how often our careers are, we kind of connect to other people. We enjoy working together, we bring out the best in each other, and we kind of follow from one organisation often to others without really knowing.
Yeah. Oh, this guy Darren Kane is his name, and I'm really proud and pleased that I know him. He's been phenomenal for me. He's been phenomenal for so many people in the security industry. He's 6'4", ex-AFL footballer, massive shoulders, really not a pretty head, but a fantastic human. Just one of the great people. And I'd do anything for the bloke. I think he is exactly what you want to see in a leader. And they used to call, well, I think they still do, they call his team like a CISO factory. I think he's got, might be somewhere between 8 and 10 CISOs that have come out of working for him. Yeah, right. And I've never seen anything like it. He is just producing really, really well-equipped people to go out and manage complex security functions in other organisations.
You kind of described him there as an excellent leader, fantastic leader. Yeah. What defines that in your mind?
It's really intangible. I mean, there's the I suppose the attributes of caring for the people that are working with you and for you, and providing them opportunities that fit with what they want to do in their career. I think the big thing that I loved about Darren was, if you couldn't do something at NBN, like if you'd hit a roadblock there, he would actually help people find their next role outside of the organisation. He was so proud and pleased when somebody came in, they got experience, exposure, they became really, really good and renowned at what they were doing and were able to take it out somewhere else. And there's so many of us that have gone out and done amazing jobs in other places. And I don't know that he necessarily gets all of the recognition and kudos that he should, but he's got my admiration till the day I die. And he's good fun to be around as well.
Yeah, we spoke about that earlier, maybe not on the podcast, but we talked about it before, about the importance of enjoying yourself at work, right?
Absolutely.
I've read a great quote this morning, which is, don't be serious, but be sincere. And I thought that was a really interesting way to look at work.
It's something that Darren spoke about a lot, because people talk about bringing your authentic self to work and that kind of thing. And you look at Darren; he was an Assumption College boy. So people who are sort of born and bred in Victoria would kind of know that Assumption College is a boarding school in country Victoria. It basically is a place where a whole lot of kind of talented kids who play AFL football go, and it's like this football factory. They just turn out these ready-made AFL footballers. So Darren, he played VFA football as it was back in the day at Paran, so he's this monstrous bloke. He was in the federal police. He just got this massive, larger-than-life personality and look about him. He's a monster of a man as well. And sort of to look at him, he terrifies a lot of people. It's hilarious to watch. But he's the biggest softie known to man, because he's worked so hard over the last probably 15, maybe even longer, years of actually allowing people to see just how much it is that he cares about those people. And he does it in his way. He's not lets everybody have a cuddle and eat marshmallows and drink hot chocolate. He does it in his way. But if you work for him, you know that he's got your back.
Yeah. And
he supports you. It's been really good. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, great. Many people, I think, today enter cybersecurity from being a technologist. I'd make the argument you didn't.
I would make the argument I didn't. The worst thing anybody could do would be put me in front of a computer. I'll break it. Hopeless with the things.
But how did that help you, though, to develop into the cybersecurity professional you became?
Again, it was the opportunities that I got at NBN to see and be really deeply involved in so much of what the entire cybersecurity spectrum is. So I came out of looking at everything from sort of that front end. Some people will call it architecture, other people will call it consulting, but it's what are you trying to do? What are the controls that should be put in place there? What does that kind of all look like? What are our standards and requirements? What are we aligned to? Doing assurance work, doing security risk work, doing the technical assurance work like pen testing and that kind of thing. Looking after a SOC and looking after penetration testing and vulnerability management and threat intel and like just everything. I got exposed to everything, and what I started to realise was the security group at NBN wasn't in the technology stack. We actually reported to the Chief Legal Counsel, and it put a different slant on it, because what the General Counsel, what the senior execs and what the board wanted to see was how are we managing security risk in the organisation.
Yep.
And it really sharpened my focus on the fact that cybersecurity is an operational risk in any organisation, and it's a really senior operational risk in an organisation. You talk to most boards and they'll say it's in their top 2 or 3 things that they're worried about. But at the end of the day, it's just another risk. Yeah. And you manage that risk the same way you do with occupational health and safety risk or reputation risk or whatever it might be. It's there to be identified and managed and mitigated and measured and all of those kind of things.
It sounds like you're very much an advocate for the kind of debate around it shouldn't report to the CIO.
At my heart, I would prefer not to report to a CIO, but I have seen enough examples to know that in a lot of places in Australia, it is the most appropriate place, because there's a lot of uplift that's got to happen. Most of that uplift is through the technology stack. And if you can't get the tech teams to put the right controls in place and manage the security risk in the most appropriate way, the whole thing falls over. And the gaps that are there will actually be amplified through poor utilisation of technology. If you can get a lot of that right, you'll actually amplify the good work that's being done. So for a lot of places, it's the right place to be.
Yeah.
But I do worry about that inherent conflict where you've got a CIO and he might have a say a platforms guy, and he's got a CISO, and the platforms guy wants to do something and the CISO says, no, you can't do that. Those two can't agree on it, so they both go running to the CIO, and he's got to decide which of his kids he loves the most.
Yeah.
Which is, the CISO, clearly.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, don't trust a platforms guy.
It's also, I guess, when it reports into the CIO, the risk that the tech budget gets consumed by cybersecurity because it is such a high risk.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think the market at the moment, and you'd know this way more than me, but I have this, I've got two sort of theories running concurrently at the moment. One is I think that during COVID and coming out of COVID, I think there was so much focus on cybersecurity as an issue that there was huge investment in the discipline in a lot of organisations. And as we're sort of moving forward and having that further and further behind us, I think with the economy the way that it is, with sort of geopolitical situations in Russia, Ukraine, and China through Indo-Pacific and Middle East and all of those things, the election in America, like the world is in a different sort of place. And I think execs and boards are looking at different issues and focused on different issues at the moment. And I also think that we've had Medibank, we've had Optus, we've had Latitude, we've had those big things, but they're a few years ago now.
Yeah.
So again, I kind of think that there's you've got to look a fair way back in the rear vision mirror now to see if you're a board member, that bad stuff that was keeping you awake at night. And it'd still be in your mind, but maybe what's front of mind now is I've got to build this business. I've got to make it more resilient, get these new products out, remain viable, whatever it might be. So I do kind of think that focus on cyber has probably drifted off a touch at that C-suite and board level. That's just my theory. I've got nothing to back it up.
Again, it's an interesting perspective. There's only so much you can keep doing with your cybersecurity, right? And
so much more we can do.
There's more you can do, but there's also so much you can do at the same time. It's and I think probably one of the things that I kind of hear and see quite often at the moment is it's becoming more of a people issue.
Oh yeah.
As in, how do you engage the hearts and the minds of the business around the risk of cybersecurity? Because
I've told you my mantra, haven't
I? You probably have, but go on.
I have. So, because I figure everybody needs like an elevator pitch, because nobody's going to remember. We need to do this and align to this framework because But I sort of threw all this together when I was at La Trobe, and I had to be the face of security. So I said, my job at La Trobe was to protect the people, assets and reputation of La Trobe University.
Yeah.
And I did that through building a program that was driven by culture, informed by risk and delivered through people, process and technology. Culture was the absolute main thing that it had to be. You had to get people to agree to come on the journey. And that the old days of being that department of no and sitting there behind screens and having long wizard beards and pasty skin, probably upsetting a whole lot of cyber people now, sorry. But that stereotypical deep tech approach when at La Trobe I had 40,000 users. That's 40,000 people. And I had to find, in any organisation, you've got to find what is the story that resonates with those people. How do I understand what they do, what they care about? How do they do what they do? How can I work with them to not drag them along, but say, okay, look, we go along on that journey and let me put the flags in the sand and be the lifeguard. And if you can swim between the flags, knock yourself out, do anything it is you need to do between those flags.
So I was thinking about Latrobe actually ahead of this. And I was looking at this and I thought it's actually a really unusual set of circumstances because you've got that many users, 40,000, as you say, but you've also got, they're fundamentally your customer and consumer. They're not an employee. So there's no kind of consequences in the employee sense around the use of the system. They're consumers of the system, they're customers, particularly the international students that are coming in, kind of paying for that service. Some of those people will be accessing it from anywhere in the world, not just Australia. So it's a whole multitude of different cybersecurity issues going on there. And that's what I think I was quite interested in. How do you make that work?
It was definitely a question I hadn't asked myself going in there. I thought NBN was an incredibly complex organisation. I thought, I got NBN through COVID. I had a whole heap of different responsibilities. One of them was cybersecurity operations. We didn't get any kind of material breach. The internet stayed up. Happy days. I've done my job. You're welcome, Australia. Then going to Latrobe, what I realised was that fundamentally, if you take a step back, NBN's got one product. It was the fibre optic backbone of the internet, and that was then on-sold to retail providers who sold it to the punter in the street. When I went to Latrobe, I sort of had this sort of view, it's a university, that's all it does. What I didn't realise is just how complex the university ecosystem is. Everything from researchers who get a grant to do a piece of work, and they might have been at University of Melbourne last week. That grant finished. They're starting here for 3 years. Their motivation is to do the research. That's the bit that they love.
Yep.
Where the grant money comes from, or who's holding the grant money, isn't super important. They're not necessarily wedded to my institution. They're wedded to this incredibly important work they're doing. We've got other academics who are doing all sorts of important things. We've got our teaching and lecturing staff. We've got our professional staff. We've got the sort of commercial and government people that we're doing research work with and different opportunities. We've got all of our students. We've got this ridiculously large and complex ecosystem where if I could not articulate what are the different businesses we have today, it'll be different next week. So how many products we've got changes every single day.
Yep.
The level of capability that we had from a security perspective, and I think this is kind of a lot of the way through the higher education sector. A lot of that security capability was dictated by kind of a historic lack of investment in IT infrastructure, a lack of investment in the concept of security. I think it's uplifted itself in the last few years. I think, again, unis coming out of COVID have realised that to be competitive globally, they need to offer great student experiences, which means they've got to invest in these things. The things like the security of critical infrastructure changes, bringing higher education or parts of higher education into the classification of being critical infrastructure have created some awareness. The University Foreign Interference Task Force, recognising that foreign interference is a potential issue in higher education. There's a whole lot of things that are starting to sharpen some focus around cybersecurity and security in general in a higher education setting. The challenge is COVID, I think, cruelled the sector. It made it really, really hard because all of a sudden, I think we've got 39 or 42 higher education institutions in the country, 28 million people. The maths just doesn't kind of work. We've got administration costs for all of these different universities. They had kind of rivers of gold with our international students, but when that dried up, you've still got an organisation that you've got to run. I know the things that Latrobe did, that the staff there made some really, really significant cuts to their own salaries just to be able to keep the doors open and keep more people there. It just goes to the culture of the people in higher education. But the sector has only got so much money. My personal view is I think we've got too many unis. I don't know that the country can sustain all of that. And each uni's got a pot of money. They've got to try and attract, retain students. They've got to try and make the environment attractive for these people, make it attractive for researchers to want to come and do their research there, all of that kind of stuff. At the same time, how much money is left over to invest in repaying the tech debt that's built up over years, building out a cybersecurity function. There's a whole range of things that the balancing act is really tough. I wouldn't want to be a chief operating officer of a uni and try and work out where do you put the money.
No, but I think that's a global issue, isn't it, with education? It's tough. It's always been tough in any way to balance all those things.
And and I've seen we've had a few really big high profile breaches in universities here, and I don't think there's been one yet that a uni hasn't come out of it with a bigger cyber team than what they had before the breach. So, never waste a good crisis, they tell me. Yeah,
well, it's funny you say that. Actually, I've read somewhere recently that one of the biggest adverts for investment in cyber was the CrowdStrike issue, which of course wasn't even a cyber issue, but it kind of flagged the vulnerability, let's say, of some of the networks and systems that exist in the way that for almost 24 hours or probably 12 hours, let's say, because of a very small piece of code, literally stopped hospitals, airports.
The ripple effect was immense. And it's been interesting seeing some of the hysteria that's come out of it, but and some of the solutions that I've seen people who are calling themselves experts have come up with that are just so impractical. But I don't know what the answer is for something like that. It's nuts.
Well, I thought at the time actually the interesting bit was it was a flurry of noise, but it was yesterday's chip paper. Yesterday's news was today's chip paper, so really quick, right? Because I identified it was a piece of code, we correct it. There's no doubt a lot of tech teams over the weekend had to wind things back to get it to, but things got moving again pretty quick.
Now we can still fly.
That's right, within a few hours. So I think it showed the vulnerability, but also the speed of recovery, probably because of some of the BAU stuff that companies have invested to put in place.
It does reinforce the need for making sure you got your foundational stuff right. So your business continuity plans and that sort of thing. I don't think there's any great genius to doing effective cybersecurity. It's get your fundamentals right. So do your patching, do your multi-factor authentication, do your business continuity plans, your IR plans. Practice them, make sure they're right, keep an eye on them. It's just the basic stuff. It's actually
basic drills, right?
It's just not that much fun when all's said and done. But if you do that, you got a chance to actually create a resilient organisation.
Yeah, great. What's the biggest risk in cybersecurity right now?
People.
Yeah.
And that's not, that's people that make mistakes. It's people that want to do wrong by you. It's people that work in different crime groups. It's people as a vector, and I hate using those kind of wanky cyber terms like threat land or threat surface and attack vector and threat actors. Bad guys are bad guys. And that's just me going back to playing cops and robbers many years ago. They're just bad guys.
There's the accidental bad guy though, right? The person that clicks on the link. Didn't intend to do it.
That's the person that wrecks my Friday every week.
But it's also creating a culture where people can put the whistle blow on themselves, let's say, and say, I just stuffed up.
And that's that whole, my program driven by culture. Because I do not want anybody to ever be frightened of saying, oh shit, I just bloody clicked on that thing. I should have thought. I want to actually say, we'll fix that part of it, but thanks so much for actually coming and telling us about it. And if they do it 30 times, then I was a regulator once at ASIC, and there's a theory of regulatory activity, which is you spend all of your time down the bottom looking for education and awareness to create voluntary compliance, and it just keeps escalating until you get right up to the very, very pointy end where nothing else has worked and you've got to bop them on the head.
Yeah, right.
So if you can't or won't learn and I've got to bop you on the head, we'll get there at some stage, but that's not what 99.9% of your work is about.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess that must be more challenging when the economy is a bit more under threat. People don't necessarily want to put the risk up and hand up and say, I've made a mistake here. So again, it comes down to that culture, right, of doing the right thing.
So you've got to have a smiley face.
Yeah, right.
We've got to be, as sort of security risk professionals and executives, you've got to be approachable. And I've seen too many places, and this goes back to that, do you report to the CIO? Are you a subset of IT? Are you buried deep in the tech stack? And have all of these learned people who haven't actually been out in the business and speaking with the business and understand what it is that they do and they care about and they love and how they do it, which I think of, that's the core of any organisation. And if people in the security stack are buried so deep and don't have a really good knowledge, appreciation and engagement with that, then there's never going to be a relationship where these people will want to engage with these people and these people will want to have anything to do with these people.
So is the future of cyber non-technical storytellers?
The future of cyber is multidisciplinary. Different roles have vastly different skills. I want the deepest, most genius technical person on the planet I can find to be a pen tester or a red teamer. I want people with amazing attention to detail and the capacity to step back and see patterns and see potentially anomalous activity and see the little needle in a haystack to be my SOC analysts and my incident responders. I want people who really understand the geopolitical landscape and what threat activity really looks like to be my threat intel people. I want people who understand the context of my organisation and the way that it's stitched together to be my vulnerability management people. Anybody can go and do a scan and get me 10 gazillion patches that need to happen, but put it in the context of what's important here. So you need so many different skills. At the heart of it, I want a GRC function. I want risk sitting right in the middle of it, because I don't think we pay enough respect to the concept of security risk. I think it's not a risk assessment and we'll do it again in 12 months' time. Security risk, we can have our picture of what it looks like today, and tomorrow there's a brand new vulnerability out there that nobody's ever seen before and it can wipe you out. Suddenly our security risk position is totally different. So that concept of really knowing what the risk landscape is and looks like and how that affects what we do, what we care about, what we love and how we do it becomes a really important consideration. So that's at the centre of everything, because everything pivots around that.
Yeah, okay. Because what again, my takeaway from this is that the bad guys are always going to move quicker than the good guys.
Oh, yeah, but that's because they don't need to.
That's in everything, right?
They have much more nimble governance. Yeah. They don't have to work through change windows.
Yeah.
They don't have to go through multi-stakeholder agreements and committees and get funding. They just go, shit, how good's this? Let's have a crack at doing something naughty with this. And away they go.
I was reading something similar actually about the opioid epidemic in the US.
Yep.
And the kind of triplicate. I don't know how much you know about this, but the doctors were required to prescribe in triplicate around these drugs, and certain states had it, certain didn't. The ones without it is where we had an opioid epidemic.
Okay.
They introduced the triplicate, and then what you then saw was an increase in illegal drug use in those states.
Oh, because it was harder to get. Path of least resistance.
That's right, but equally it's less regulated. So whilst it was an opioid problem, there was still a degree of regulation where people could get caught and identified, and you could see who was prescribing this stuff. But once it goes underground, it's completely lost, right?
Yeah.
And you say that they haven't got the same regulation and governance to the way they're trying to.
And they've run far more efficient organisations than what corporate Australia or corporate global work. They're just so efficient. You look at that whole concept of bad guy as a service kind of stuff now, and we're really good at being an initial access broker, so that's what we do, and we're really good at writing awesome ransomware code, so that's what we do, and we're really good at this and we're really good at that, and you can just go, I'll have one of them and one of them and one of them, and for $2,500 I can go and bring down whatever. It's crazy. The story is just so awesome. And then you look at this sort of the supporting ecosystem of like encrypted phones and all of it. Just there's some mad things that go on. It is cops and robbers. I'm just doing what I've always done. It's just a different world that we do it in.
So you're not an ex-copper. You're still a copper.
Well, my daughter thinks I'm a spy. She all through COVID, I was at NBN, and I'd be on the phone talking to different people about stuff in meetings, and we'd be going, oh yeah, no, we're seeing this, insert name of country here, they're poking and prodding us over here, and this country's doing this, and my daughter, her bedroom was next to my study in our house, so she'd be at home listening to me having these conversations about countries doing stuff, and she'd just go, Dad, are you a spy? And I'd go, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, that's what a spy would say, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm a greeting card salesman.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's great. Also, by the way, please tell me you made up bad guys of service, because that's
I did just then, but
brilliant.
I like it.
I like it. I think you should trademark it, because that's one of the funniest things I've heard all year. Right, we're going to do the cards.
Okay.
So I'm going to spread these out.
Oh, that's right. I've got to pick three, don't I?
Yes, you do. Pick three. Read the question and give us your answer.
Three all at once?
No, as you wish.
I'll do this one then. Okay, dog person or cat person? I've been really lucky. I like cats, and I've had some really interesting ones. I had one that got its eye bitten out in a fight, and used to run around with one eye sewn shut. I had another one that thought it was a dog and used to attack people. That was awesome. But I think ultimately I've been really lucky. I've had 3 dogs. My first one was a police dog. We got him from the police force, a big German Shepherd. He was bred to be a police dog and failed their psychological assessment. He wouldn't bite anybody, so he's a bloody awesome pet. He was awesome. And then we got a Labrador after he passed away, and she was bred by people that breed for the seeing guide dogs. She was a fantastic dog, and during COVID, my wife and I were going to go to Italy for a trip of a lifetime, and suddenly we weren't able to, and we found that you could spend 3 times what you would normally spend on a dog during COVID.
Yeah.
Because the prices went through the roof. So
about the cost of a trip to Italy for a dog.
Yeah, pretty much. And my wife convinced me that we would get a Groodle, so a golden retriever, a poodle cross. And we got this dog, and I just didn't think I was ever going to be a oodle kind of person. And we got this dog. His name's Archie. He's been trained as a therapy dog, so occasionally he goes to work with my wife at her school and works with the kids in the classrooms and that kind of thing. And I wouldn't change. I will never be without a dog, and probably more Groodles.
So the answer is a dog person, not a cat person. I'm taking from that.
Yeah, I like cats, but dogs are amazing.
Yeah.
That one's easy. We already answered that question. It was what am I most proud of in my career?
Ah, okay.
That's yet to come.
Yeah.
Early bird or night owl? Fun fact, I stopped drinking altogether a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think, I was not a big drinker by any stretch, but, I was brought up in the police force, so I can binge with the best of them.
Yeah.
And I think, if I was out with a group of people and we were having a drink, I could be an amazing night owl. But I think my preference is definitely early in the morning.
Okay.
I don't mind it at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's actually all right.
Yeah, you impressed me earlier. Actually, you said you were working at 6 this morning.
Yeah. No, I like it. It's before everybody else sort of gets online and people start asking you questions. You can get a bit of thinking done. And
completely agree.
Good.
Yeah, I'm on the train about a similar time, about 6:30. And actually, you reminded me when you gave that answer. My dad, one advice he once gave me was, "Don't hoot with the owls if you can't soar with the eagles."
Yeah. Well, I don't recover as much as what I used to. So. A 2-week hangover will swear you off grog for quite a while.
Yeah.
So, and it's good. I don't miss it. Non-alcoholic beer is a thing now, and it's real, and it's actually not too bad. So,
yeah,
there you go. There's my public service announcement.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. If I was a brand, what would be my motto? It's probably covered off in my elevator pitch. I'm here to protect the people, assets, and reputation of the organisation.
It was actually interesting when you shared that quote because it's in my notes. I actually picked out that specific quote: "Driven by culture, informed by risk, delivered through people, process, and technology." And I had it when I was going to ask you about it, and then you quoted it, and you quoted it verbatim, exactly as per the notes.
So it's not my first rodeo. I've said it once or twice.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good to know what you stand for. And
I think
as a leader, particularly,
that reflects my attitude, philosophy, and fundamental belief in what it is that we should try and do.
Yeah.
And so I don't talk about the tech.
Yeah.
The tech will change all the time. If you get those other bits right, you'll amplify the wonderful work you've done. If you get it wrong, you'll amplify the gaps that you've got.
Yeah.
Every organisation has people. People are the thing that we want to be able to go home at the end of the day. We want to have the least amount of stress that they can be under. We want them to be comfortable that there's a business to come back to tomorrow.
100%. Look, and I've got this theory that as AI becomes more dominant, business will need people more than ever.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to go. I really don't.
I think we just get the chance to be more people-y. People need people. Is that a thing?
Yeah, no,
but
absolutely.
You understand what I mean? As in the tech can take care of the basic stuff, right? The automated tasks and actions and organisation and et cetera, et cetera. But human connection, I think, is going to become more important.
I hope so. I hope that's the good that comes out of it.
Well, it should be, right? Because that can't be replicated. The ability to build a relationship, have a conversation, to a certain degree, right, with the AI, but not really to that sort of true depth.
No, and it's like my kids being the first generation of social media. I don't know what they were going into, and I learnt probably too late in the piece to understand that there are no rules with what they're going into. This generation will write the rules. It's the same with AI. We've got the next generation, and that's AI is not new. It's been around forever, but it's suddenly so focused, and there's so much work going on in developing different use cases for it. So that capability and landscape and what people are able to do with it is going to change so much. And you're right. It's already we're seeing lots and lots of that routine activity being taken, and that's fantastic because we can free people up to use their creativity, their resources in a different way. Yeah. So there'll be different jobs. I can't imagine what those jobs are.
That's
and
right.
Again, speaking to my wife, when I went to school, they taught me times tables and writing and facts. We don't need to teach kids facts anymore. We need to teach kids how to learn, and that's what I hope we do. Right. We build generations of people who know how to learn and want to learn, and ultimately, I hope we get to a better place.
I often quote this fact, and it was said to me by a very good friend of mine who's one of the smartest people I know, actually. He's currently working on a cure for HIV.
Oh, wow.
And he said to me that Einstein used to pride himself on having a terrible memory.
Really?
And apparently, he assures me because he's got a terrible memory. So, I'm not sure if he's comparing himself to Einstein, but he said Einstein had a terrible memory. He could never remember facts and figures and things because he knew where to go to find that information when he needed it.
Isn't that great?
And he cleared his brain to think, not to remember stuff.
Yep.
And this is what Theo always says to me. And it's interesting because I've thought about that a lot recently with AI and the ability. And it's like now, I you go back 25 years ago, I could probably tell you 25, maybe 30 people's phone numbers.
Yeah, I can still tell you my
probably tell you
credit
one.
card. I can tell you my credit card number, my tax file number, my driver's license number. Yeah, no, just there's some numbers that have stuck in
There's
my
some
head.
that stick, but they would have been probably, you had them a long time ago, right?
Oh, yeah,
Those things don't
yeah,
change.
no.
Because we don't need to remember that stuff anymore. There's a way of storing that information which enables
I
us
had
to do
to,
things.
from my office to here today, I had to pull my phone out 4 times to look at the number of the building I was coming to. So numbers don't stick in my head.
Yeah, there you go. I've got a couple of last questions for you.
Sure.
You said earlier about academic regret. How about career regret? What's your biggest regret?
I think, and this is a whole can of worms, and we won't be able to go there today, but my biggest regret is I think I've never got over that concept of imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. Every single day I think this could just collapse tomorrow because I've got no right to be here doing what it is that I do. I'm not an expert in anything. There are way smarter people than me out there that don't have the opportunities that I've had, and I don't know why it's happened to me, and somebody will find me out at some stage.
But does that just is proof you're not a narcissist, right? It proves that you're human.
Oh no, I'm pretty fond of myself.
Oh, but, no, you know what I mean. As in, I think this concept of imposter syndrome is good. Because the minute we get full of ourselves and we feel super confident in what we're doing, we're getting complacent.
Yeah, I wish there was like one day where I could go, I got this.
Yeah,
this is all right.
There must be some days.
There's been things that people have sort of brought to my attention afterwards and gone, how did you do that? And like you feel kind of proud that you don't think about what it is that you've done, but for some reason you are able to, in your head, conceptualise something really big and complex and important and be able to navigate your way around it. And I remember the first time somebody said that to me, I was in the police force and I was running an investigation where a horse trainer had a girlfriend who was a jockey. He used to, it was a really volatile relationship. She ran off with another horse trainer, and first horse trainer went and paid a hitman to kill the second horse trainer.
Right.
And the hitman just happened to be an informer. And so we went, well, it'd be really bad karma if you killed this bloke, but we should probably put together something and gather the evidence we need and then arrest this dude and his mates for conspiring to kill our other horse trainer friend. And so put together this big job, and it was sort of Melbourne, Canberra, Gold Coast, all sorts of things. So listening devices and surveillance, and it was awesome fun. Such a good fun job.
Yeah.
And we got everybody, and this was my job, and it was crazy. There was so much going on, and at the end of it, one of my colleagues pulled me aside and said, "How the hell did you manage to do that?" I don't know, no idea, but it was just good fun.
Yeah.
So that every now and then something happens, and you sort of retrospectively you can kind of look back and go, well, I've obviously learned how to do something along the way, because it didn't blow up in our face.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I guess so learnings along the way. That learning is, I guess, informed or shaped by feedback.
Yeah.
So what would you say has been the most significant feedback you've received in your career?
It's been interesting, because I think that concept of sitting down and getting formal feedback and a sort of an end of year appraisal-y kind of thing, I've tragically never put much stead in any of that, but just a kind word goes so far.
Yeah.
I'm a massive fan of kindness. There's not enough kindness in the world, and somebody that goes out of their way to say something kind, I think it's got magical powers.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So I think just that the people that have taken the time to be authentic and be kind, they've had a massive effect on me, because it reinforces for me that's what I want to be to other people.
Yeah.
Still working on
it. What singular piece of sage advice would you give to the next generation?
Just have a go. There's nothing. Like you spoke about that sort of that honeycomb beehive kind of approach. You can do anything, you can be anyone, you can try so many different things, and provided you end up learning something out of everything you do, is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Unless you want to go off and be a professional bad guy, then don't do that.
Be a professional good guy.
Yeah, the money's really good though, they tell me. So I don't know. Maybe we need bad guys, because then the good guys have still got jobs.
Well, that's also true. Yeah, that's true. What are you reading? What are you listening to at the moment?
I've got shocking taste in music. My Spotify playlist is not anything.
What's the worst thing on your Spotify list?
Psychobilly punk as a genre.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
It's awesome. I love it. It's like rockabilly, but just filthy.
Yeah.
And violent and nasty, but just good fun, like toe tapping to listen to and drive to.
Yeah.
But no, if I'm most of my other things on my playlist, I'm fixated on two artists in particular. One is a guy called Jack White, who was from the White Stripes, who had that song years ago called Seven Nation Army that everybody's heard of.
Yeah.
But he's got some awesome other stuff. And the other person I'm kind of have a man crush on is a guy from Wales. And I got onto him through a busking band out of Brighton in the UK called The Big Push, who just did these really interesting, quirky, funky covers of sort of mashed together songs. And I heard them doing a Black Sabbath song mixed up with some other reggae song, and it was awesome, and I loved it, and I kept following them. And one of the main guys out of that was a guy called Ren. And Ren was a really interesting character, and this band, The Big Push, split up, and he was doing a lot of his own stuff, and he has got this really significant mental history background, and he's got this really significant autoimmune disease, and he's had it really tough. And he wrote this thing called High Ren, which is like nothing I've ever seen, and that I broke down in tears probably the first 10 times I watched the video and listened to the song. It is so ridiculously powerful. It's his story about his battle or conversation with what's going on inside him, and it's the bad guy and the good guy trying to work out who wins and why. And if you haven't seen it or heard it, go and find High Ren and watch it on YouTube, because the video puts the context around the music unbelievably. There's the whole thing goes for about 9 minutes. There's a big monologue at the end that again puts context into it. It's the single most powerful thing I've ever seen. And he does a whole lot of other stuff. He does a lot of rap music and just a really wide variety of things. Just a really interesting bloke. Then for books, I'm reading the 2024 CISP study guide, because for some reason I thought that was a good idea. And I'm also reading at the same time a book I bought on Amazon a couple of weeks ago, which is a quantification of security risk using the FAIR method. So if you kill me now. But I'm also reading just I went past a bookshop a few weeks ago, and there was like the cheap, trashy detective novels that, all marked down to $9.99. So I think I bought 4 or 5 of them. They're sitting on the.
That's interesting. So do you like a detective novel, having been a detective?
I used to love reading all the true crime ones because I sort of lived through. My time in the police force was the gangland wars here in Victoria. So you watch all the TV shows of the Carl Williams of the world and the Pettingill families and all of these things, and they were the people I worked on. So I know them. I've been there, and so watching them was kind of funny. And so I read a lot of the sort of the true crime ones, but now I just like sort of just fiction kind of stuff. So James Patterson is somebody I read a lot of because it's just easy to consume. So I just if I'm on holidays and want to switch off, I'll read something. Or when I go to bed at night, I've got a really strict thing that there's no screen anywhere near my bed, so my phone's on the other side of the room. I go nowhere near it. I'll read a paper copy book. And if I'm in the car, I'm actually listening to Game of Thrones as well for some reason. Don't know why.
How many books into that?
I don't know. It's about. I don't know. The book itself as an audio book was about 30 something hours. And I think I'm probably 20 hours into it. And again, it's just easy. Like it just plays in the background.
I've read the first book actually, and I was amazed at how strictly it followed the television show.
The language, I was going, they said that. That happened. So no, it's been interesting to sort of revisiting it. I think those really big sort of fantasy epics. So the Tolkien stuff with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, Frank Herbert with the Dune series. I read 5 or 6 of those books over Christmas. I've read Dune, and I'd read it years and years ago when I was a kid, and I just remembered I liked it, so I went and pulled it out and read it and went, oh yeah, how good's this? And then read the lot.
Great.
And now I thought I should probably go and read some of this Game of Thrones stuff. So I just consume stuff. So it's good, and it's all over the place.
Great.
As long as I'm enjoying it, I don't care. It's
absolutely
good. And a lot of stuff for my grandson as well. So a lot of Dr. Zeus and where's the rabbit? A little 1-year-old. So read a lot of children's books. Nice. So that's cool. I like it.
Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
It's been really insightful and interesting to kind of hear your journey. I think particularly in cybersecurity. So it's an area that is a bit emerging and new, and people are less sure about. And I think it's been really interesting to hear how you got into that career, how you followed it, kind of where it's going as well, and the things that you're doing in there as well. So it's really impressive, but it's insightful, and I think interesting for people to learn about. So thank you for being so generous with your time.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed the chat. Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to Tales from Tech Titans, and be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcast. If you'd like to get more insights about tech careers, then check out the Ember, that's EMMBR LinkedIn page for the latest updates, articles, and engaging discussions.